All right, welcome back to the shop. So in this video, I've got a differential from a Caterpillar 735. The serial number prefix is AWR. This is the center diff. So it's out of the center axle, or the front drive axle as some call it. So here's what the problem is. Anyways, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and he owns a couple of these 735s. And he said, hey, I got a differential that went out. Can you come out and check it out for me? So he sent me the serial number. I looked up the serial number. And it's like, hey, I know that serial number. So I used to actually own part of this truck a long time ago, about 8 years ago. And he's got it now, and it's a nice truck. It's not in bad shape at all, real low hour. But here's a problem with it. So he went and he pulled the drain plug out, and he got a handful of washers that came out with it. And what it was is this pinion gear is bolted to the hub, to this carrier hub. And a long time ago, back in like 08 or 09, when the Obama recession hit really hard, the cat dealers, everybody was slow. We're really slow down here in California. And the cat dealers were running out of work. They were laying their guys off. And I talked to my rep over there down in San Diego. And I said, hey, I think there's probably some service letters to be done on these trucks. And what service letters are, when the dealers sell new trucks to customers, if CAT finds something they should have done better or something they want to improve on the machine, they'll actually pay the dealer to go out and do this work for free for the customer. And normally, just being a small rental company, they don't really care about us. But they were in a recession, and I said, hey, I think there's some service letter work to be done on these. So they looked it up, and they were hauling our rock trucks in there like crazy. They must have hauled 7 or 8 of our trucks into their facility and did all these updates. And one of the updates was this differential, and it received... First off, they added these pins, these dowel. Well, they changed these dowel pins. Well, you've got these dowel pins here in the lockup clutch, and they had a problem with these falling out. So they had a repair where they wanted to drill it out and put this retainer pin in, and then you can see they staked it and everything. That was one of the repairs, and the other one was changing the bolts on that hold the ring gear in, because they had a problem with the bolts falling out or breaking. Well, some of the stuff that they did for us actually came back to bite us because they didn't do it right. This truck only has 15,000 hours on it right now. When they did that repair, it probably had 4,000, somewhere like that, 3,000 or 4,000. I guess it made it a while, but those bolts shouldn't have fallen out. That was just, somebody put them in wrong. Some guy using his torque wrench who probably went on the lower end of the torque, or he didn't trust his torque wrench, or just didn't know how to use it or something, and all those bolts fell out. So now it's costing my friend about $5,000 in parts. I had to buy a ring and pinion set. I've got a box here with all the bearings, all the crap we're going to need for it in here. But that new hub assembly's, over $2,000? And that hub's bad because the ring was spinning on it. So I'm sure it ate into it. And the ring's bad because it was spinning on there, and it's got a couple chipped teeth, and so does the pinion. So those obviously have to come out. So anyways, after all this babbling, let's get to it. This video, I'm gonna disassemble this thing. And I'll probably do a separate video when I go to do the assembly. I'll just make 2 videos out of it. I may glance over some of the stuff because I am in kind of a hurry. I've got to get this done for him. The truck's sitting up there waiting. He needs to get it back to work. And it's already taken me over a week to get the parts. In fact, the ring and pinion haven't even come in yet. They were supposed to come in into the dealer today, and they didn't show up. So I'm going to get this all tore apart, get it all cleaned up, and change whatever bearings I can, get everything done I can. And as soon as I get that ring and pinion, then we can heat up the ring gear, press it onto the carrier, get the bolts in, torque, all that crap, and get it back together. And then I might possibly do a video of installing it too. It's not a big deal installing this thing. It's not a big deal. It's probably not worth a video, but I might do it. So anyways, let me get the camera set up and I'll get this thing flipped around. Sorry about the light here. I always get this issue with the light coming in this door. And I really need to work near here because I've got my crane right here. And I don't want to close the door unless it stays cool out here. It's only about 65 degrees right now, so it's not bad. But anyways, let's get this thing apart. All right, so if you look at the Caterpillar assembly, disassembly paperwork, which I just printed up here off the SysWeb, they show that you're supposed to put it on this stand, this repair stand. I've got a new stand that I'm going to try, but I'm not going to bother putting it on when I disassemble it, because I've disassembled dozens of these without bothering to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just tear it apart, but when I go to assemble it, I'm going to put it on that stand. So for right now, what I'm going to do, I just need to flip it over, and I need to disassemble this lockup clutch and get all this off of here, and then I'll be able to pull these bolts out and pull these caps off and get the differential unit out. And then after that, we'll be removing the parking brake disc and yoke, and driveline yoke, and it will be disassembling this front half. So this one's got a little bit more to it than the regular diff because, let's see, it's actually upside down. There's a gear in here that drives the shaft. Oh, where is it? I don't know, it comes out of here somewhere. Yeah, it's on the other, oh, right here to the top. So there's a gear in here. So there's a gear in here that drives a shaft that comes through here. It's actually that shaft right there. And that goes through to another yoke on the outside of the axle housing, and that drives the rear axle. So there's a little bit more involved in this one, but it's not much. It's just the gear and some more bearings. Okay, so to begin with, I rolled this over on its side. I pulled these 4 bolts right here that hold this lockup unit on here. So this is a solid lockup unit. This differential's a normal differential until you in the cab engage the diff lock. And then this goes by hydraulics. It's got discs and plates in here, just like in a transmission, and they lock up solid and give you solid differential lock. But before I can pull that out, there's an oil tube here. This is where the oil line comes in to engage the diff lock. So you pull this fitting out, and then there's a tube inside there. You just need to get a pair of pliers or something and pop that thing out of there. And then you can remove this. Okay, so I pulled off this retainer up here. This is also the piston housing. That's what these bolts are for here. They hold the piston in there. So you unbolt those, and then you can pull the piston out. I'll pull it out once I get the rest of this apart, just so we can check the seals in there. You know, if those pistons start leaking, it'll start flooding your differential with hydraulic oil. And the only remedy for that is to take it apart and rebuild it, or to plug off the line. So if you don't need the diff lock, then you just unhook it. So we pull this roller bearing out, lay that there on the piston, and then we start pulling these plates out. Now these plates, the reason there's 2 steel plates here, one of the updates that they did was to remove one of the lockup discs, and I think 2 of the discs actually, and then they added a plate to make up the space. And they did that because the diff was locking up so hard, it didn't have any breakaway force at all. And so that's what they did. They kind of weakened it. And that's one of the updates that are done to this one. These look a little dark, a little blue. Let's get these apart. Let's see what this looks like in here. Get these apart. Yeah, they look fine. These look a little dark or a little blue, but I don't know. It almost looks like it was made that way. I don't know. Like, there's not a whole lot that could go wrong in this thing. It's not like you can drag it. You know what I mean? It's usually just off or on. We'll check those discs just to make sure that they're not warped or anything like that. Or the plates in the discs. Okay, so after removing the plates and discs, I removed this part of the unit, the part with the dowels and everything in there, and then another bearing. That bearing rides on this race. Before I pull these caps off to remove the differential, I need to remove these 4 screws to take a Torx. You have to remove those. They're Loctited in, so you've got to be careful not to strip them, otherwise you're going to be drilling them out. And then you don't need to worry about this lock here or this. This is just the adjuster for your run out. That way you won't even bother to touch until we go to put it back together. And that's when we have to adjust, the run out on the ring and pinion. So we'll get this plate off, and we'll pull these caps, and we'll drop this diff out of here. Okay, so I got these caps off. You don't have to really worry about mixing them up because you kind of can't put them on wrong. This one's going to have the holes here for that race for the diff lock, and that's going to match up with this. The races are beautiful. They're not clouded up. The bearings are in great shape. But here's the pinion, or the ring gear. You see a chunk out of here, it's a chip out of here, chip out of here. And we flip it over. You can see all the missing bolts. Supposed to be 30 bolts in there. And you can see this thing's just like loose. I'll be able to just pop that off at the bar. Yeah, I think I'll do that next. Yeah, I can just lay it over and it's actually just tap it. Or, sorry about the bad camera work. I'm working with one hand here. Yeah, I just flipped that over and the gear just fell off. You can see the last bolt that hung on got sheared off. So they all just slowly fell out. A couple of these chipped when they came off. And so the thing about this, like, I'm talking about the damage on the carrier. This gear is really freaking hard, okay? This isn't gonna wear when that rubs on there, but this is where it's gonna wear. I think this is cast steel, so you could see the wear grooves in it. So it's a shame. This carrier is shot now because of that. The ring gear is shot. So the ring and pinion set's pretty cheap for this diff, actually. The front diff on these tractors, the ring and pinion set's over $4,000 from Cat. You can buy them about half price from like Eurocambi, someone like that, you know, like an Italian gear. These ones here, I think it was $1,300 or $1,400 for this diff. It's actually pretty cheap, relatively. I know if you're buying it for your car or truck or off-roader, you'd be like thinking that's a lot of money. But for these, for Caterpillar, that's cheap. And then this carrier here, of course, is over $2,000. So now I'm just going to pull these bolts out of here, and then you'll be able to see the spider gears and all the crap that's inside there. And then we'll be able to make sure all that stuff's good. If that's all good, then I don't have to order any more parts. All right, so here's that used carrier that I bought. I just looked it up on my phone. It was Frontier Tractor Parts in Texas. And I mean, look at this thing. This thing looks like it got mauled by a shark. Look at this. Just beat the crap. I mean, this thing, I don't know if it's cracked in here. Look at this. That's where the spider gear shafts go through. And then I look right here at the section here where the brace is supposed to go on. And you could see it looks like it was spinning on there, like it was loose. It's kind of tore up. So I've got to run in right now and order one from Cat and hope it's local. If not, I've got to overnight this thing because I have to get this truck up and get it out of there. You know, get this thing running for the guy. And then I got to get a hold of Frontier Tractor Parts and let them know that I want my $1,100 plus tax back and my shipping and all that crap. So anyways, let's hope I can find one. All right, so I'm on SysWeb right now, and here's the differential assembly. And right down here, if you can see the mouse, I'll put my finger there, there's part of the carrier right there. You can see the ring and pinion, or the ring gear here. So part number 51, so let's highlight that. That'll highlight it over here. And so that shows the differential group, because that's the actual differential that's in the, I guess in the day we called it a third member. That's what's in the whole assembly. And then for some reason they give me a breakout here, even though it's the same part number. So we'll click on the newer one, whatever. Here is that unit with the spider gears and all that crap in it. So here's where the ring gear mounts, part number 6, and that comes with this as well. It doesn't come with this stuff. We don't need that. So part number 6, we come over here. It's called a case assembly. So I just hit price and availability. We got case assembly differential. It shows that it's in York, Pennsylvania. $1,900. So I am going to order that right now. Well, actually, I'm going to call an order because I'm going to put this on his account. So I've got to make a phone call right now and get this thing coming, and then we can go from there. All right, so I got a hold of Frontier Tractor Parts, and I had to send them pictures of this. He said he doesn't know what it looks like, so he needs pictures of it to be able to give me my money back. But this thing is hammered. This thing saw some, got destroyed. The diff must have got destroyed and they tried to salvage what they could out of it to sell it, but this thing is just trash. So that's going back to Texas. Or back into my steel bin, wherever. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this carrier apart just to make sure this is all good. We'll pull this pinion shaft out, make sure everything in there is good. And then when we get our new carrier from Cat for 2,000 bucks, probably Wednesday, we'll be able to put this thing back together. So let's continue tearing this thing apart. Okay, so I got that off of there. So here's the spider gears. And by the way, when I was taking this apart, I noticed a couple of these bolts had taken a hit. So I'm going to order new bolts for these too, new bolts and washers. So here's a spider gear. Let me see if I can get this out without... It's always fun with just one hand, you know? Let's see. Come on. Oh man, I need a cameraman. There we go. So these thrust washers look pretty good. They got a little bit of marring to them, but there's no wear to them. And then this is the new style cross. The old style cross was a two-piece, and they had like a notch, like how you do like kind of like a Lincoln logs, you know, to put two Lincoln logs together, and those would break. So they came out with this better cross. And these gears look good. Yeah, I don't see any chips or any bad wear patterns in them. No, they look pretty good. And then these bearings, I ordered these bearings. We changed those. They look pretty good. You know, these don't have a ton of hours on them because this was updated. All right, so then over into here, this gear. Oh, come on, baby. Come on. There, got some good gear oil in there. This stuff is just suction cupped in there. So this is the gear that the axle goes into. And these have war. See that? They got some steel embedded in them. And they've got some wear to them. I have those. I already bought those. Whoa. And then here's this one. This is for the axle on the other side. Yeah, the teeth look good. And these, I'm sure this is war just like the other side. You know, it's not super bad. It does have some wear. Like if a guy had to, you could reuse these. They're not bad, but we're gonna replace those while we're in there. They're not very expensive. So let's just get this clip out of the way. I'll set the camera back up with the time lapse, and we'll go ahead and pull that. We'll start pulling the diff out. We're gonna have to flip it over and pull the yoke and the disc off, and pull this cover part, get the gears out, get the nuts off, and then we'll be able to slide the pinion gear out of there. Here's what the pinion gear looks like sitting in there. Okay, so I took this cover off of here. This is the input gear, and then this is the one where this other shaft ends up splining into this and goes through to the rear diff. So you've got a solid connection to the rear diff from the front drive shaft. This is the gear. There's two gears in here, one on here and here, and this drives the differential pinion gear. So one thing I want to show you guys, I might not be able to pull this apart till Alex gets back with the service truck. I've got to see if I have snap ring pliers big enough. But when these trucks first came out, they had a nut like this holding these on. And what you do is you screw this down, you get it to the right drag or torque or whatever, and you tighten these Allen screws. Well, these were coming off, and especially the rear differential. And we lost 4 or 5 rear differentials over that. Cat finally came clean on it. And actually before that, believe it or not, they had another one that screwed on, and then you just... there's a slot here, a key slot, and then you'd stake it through that key slot, and that would come out. Then they came out with this one, which should have been better, and it was coming off. They weren't any good. They had them on the front, but the way of rotation, it didn't affect it. They didn't come off. But the way these rear ones are, it would come off. So this was the newest update to these. So what you do is you pull this snap ring off, and then this washer comes off. And this washer locks into the grooves on this other washer, but it also locks into the grooves on this nut. So you take the snap ring off, you pull this first washer off, and then you can unscrew this from the pinion shaft. And then this bottom washer will come off. And it's ingenious. It's a really, really good locking nut. The Cat didn't invent it. I've seen it on other stuff. It just took Cat a while to get to using them, I guess, just out of necessity. But it's an incredible, a really good system here. So I need to find snap ring pliers so I can get this off. If I can't, I'll just have to wait till Alex gets back, and then we can finish disassembling it. I'm down for 2 more days for parts anyways, because by the time I was able to order that carrier, York was already closed because they're 3 hours ahead from us. It was already too late to get the shipping. Well, they weren't closed, but it's already too late for shipping. So anyways, we'll get this apart. Well, believe it or not, I got it with this tiny pair of snap ring pliers. It's the only one I could find in the shop. I raided a bunch of stuff out of the truck before we left that I thought I'd need for this, but I forgot about that. But anyways, I got that. So see, take this off, then you slide. Come on, get a screwdriver or something. You slide this off, and see how this has all these little teeth that engage into the nut here. And then they also have these ears that go around this other washer, which gets locked in by the keyway and pressed in place by the nut. So now that we have that off, I can just get like a brass punch or whatever and a hammer, and then unscrew this. And once I do that, then the pinion's going to drop down. So on this part, instead of just setting you guys up on time lapse, I'm going to go ahead and set the camera up here with it actually running. Usually I do time lapse on this stuff just so it doesn't get boring. Let's see if I can get this camera set up good. Is that still good? Yep. All right, I didn't have a brass punch handy, but I'm not going to hurt it with this steel one. There we go. You can see the pinion's trying to turn on me. Now when you disassemble this, if you follow the Cat disassembly guide, they tell you to put the caps back on, and you're supposed to clamp this tooling in there so it keeps tension on this, but it's not really necessary. This pinion's going in the trash, so if it falls out and hits this plywood and gets chipped, well, I really don't care. Not that it would anyways. Going back together, it's nice to have, but what I use is I have a little, before I had the jig to hold this up, I've got a jack over there that I welded some stuff to, and I could put it underneath there and it would actually hold the pinion in place, because you do have to set a rolling torque and stuff when you assemble it, but taking it apart, it's not a big deal. Yeah, there's some ground up steel in there. All right, so that's what the other part looks like. That's what this locks down onto when it's in there. All right, now that I have the nut and all that locking stuff off, I need to go ahead and pull this plate off here, and I need to remove this housing here. And then underneath this bearing sits in this housing, and once you lift this off, this Timken bearing is going to come up with it. And then there's a hidden lock inside there. If you don't know about it, it'll drive you crazy trying to figure it out, but I'll show you when we get in there. So this cover is really making it hard to get off. Whoever put this together before, I don't know what they did to that bearing, but they screwed that up right there, and it's dragging on the spline here on the pinion. If this pinion was good, I'd have to come back in here and do something with that, but I'm gonna have to just drag it over that. Doesn't matter, this is trash anyways. That's why I'm beating on it with a hammer without caring. But I'm getting it up there. I only broke one of the puller bolts out so far out of 4, so I've just got to keep working on it. Once I get this off, then I can show you what's inside there as far as those extra locks that I was talking about. I'm not going to bother videoing the rest of me getting this off. Once I get this off, I'll come back to you. All right, I finally got this free. I don't know what these guys were doing, these dealer mechanics. I know this was done by Hawthorne the last time. And look at this bearing. Like, they beat the crap out of this thing to get it in there. It just ruined it. It was stuck on the, coming over the spline. I broke 2 puller bolts off. I was using bars and shimmying it and beating on it. I finally got it out. Finally got it loose. So let me go ahead and lift this off. See if I can do this with hand without killing my fingers. All right, so there's the bearings in there. And then here's the bearing for the other side, which runs this gear. So this gear here is just for running the rear differential. If those bearings are good, we're just going to leave them. If they need to be changed, we're going to change them. This diff doesn't have a lot of wear in it, so. And then here's the thing I was talking about earlier. This is the pinion. This is the back side of the pinion gear, the pinion gear. And then here's the gear that drives or gets driven by the input slash X output gear. So this thing here is a lock retainer, but this here has like a 3-piece thing to it. This is going to pop off, and then there's 2 half moon rings in here that are going to lock onto here. And if you don't get that, you got to get those off to get this out of here. I saw a guy once put this in a press to try to get it out, and he finally pressed it and broke all this out and blew this out. It's a long time ago. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but anyways, let's get this off. This is kind of the most secret, hidden kind of thing in here to get off. If you don't know about this, even in the paperwork, it just says remove ring. It doesn't say what it is. So this is so pay attention to this, and I'll show you how to get this thing off. So here's the disassembly instructions, and this kind of shows the stack up. So this is the gear that's still on there. Here's the pinion shaft, and this is that part here that I'm talking about. It's got this piece that goes over, and then these 2 half moons that circle around it. They go into a notch in the pinion gear. I don't know. I think in the jig that they have that this thing's supposed to set in, they tell you you're supposed to bolt this tooling in there, and you run a screw up, and it puts tension up on the pinion. I think that just holds the pinion up so that you can get this in and out. Because once this is in, you wouldn't need it on assembly, not totally. And just to get it out, it might put some friction on it. And it's not like my feet are under it, so I don't have to worry about it dropping. So I'm going to go ahead and let it drop. But here's what you do: you just come up here to this ring, and you pop this ring up. Just get myself like a real small flat blade screwdriver. It'd probably be easier if I had 2 hands to do it with, but you guys gotta watch me struggle holding a camera. There we go. Alright, so once this comes off, see it's got that groove in there? Because it sits around these. You can see how it's 2 pieces. So let's set this aside, and then we'll knock this out. There's one of them, and then the second one's holding the pinion up right now. So once this comes out, the pinion's going to drop and hit the plywood, just like that. So here's the other retainer, and then we can pull this gear off if I can get a grip on it. Yep. And then here's the input drive gear, and just for reference, that part number goes down. See, it's got this big void area here, and then the spline runs right to the edge here. I'm going to verify that, so when I do the assembly video, you'll see that. I'll make a note of which way I put this. So let's put this gear over here with those covers, and then the pinion. It's just laying in there right now. I can flip this housing over, I guess, just to get it out. All right, so here's the pinion. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this cleaned up, stripped down, cleaned up. And when I get my parts in 2 days, I will start filming again when I put this thing back together. So I think that's a wrap on this video. I'm going to make these 2 separate videos. Otherwise, this thing's going to be 2 hours long. Thanks for watching. If this helps, please hit that like button. Please comment. If you don't have any constructive comments, please don't sit there and armchair mechanic me. I've got another video out right now. I got some guy, 3 guys, they're armchair mechanicing me on something, and they're just stupid. You know, I bet you it's something they've never done. So just enjoy it, take it as entertainment, or take it as helping you out if you're gonna do one. And if you think I'm wrong doing it, well, that's your problem, because I've got differentials like this out there with 10,000-15,000 hours on them, and they're still running. So I guess I'm doing it right. Anyways, sorry to have to rant like that. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't, and please share this with somebody if you know someone that'd be interested in it. And thanks for watching.